I'm also reading something for my thesis. I'm happy because the only chief complaint was that there weren't enough knife fights or car chases. So, when people ask me about you, I tell them about the time that I came to school in the middle of winter without a jacket on, and how you took yours off and gave it to me. I wore it from first period until the end of third, and despite me offering it back to you, you turned me down and braved the heavy rainfall. I tell people about how around fifth period I discovered 2 tabs of acid in the inside of your coat, and how I passed you a note during Spanish telling you I wanted to take them with you. After 6th period, when the bell rang, the tabs melted onto our tongues as we were sprawled out on the wet, puddled grass of the soccer field. I tell people that you held my hand and that we kissed until the rain stopped falling, that you felt me up even though we were soaked and dirty from the mud. I tell people that while we were high, we spoke secrets to one another, ones that we hadn't told our closest friends. Instead of telling people how you whispered to me that you were depressed, I tell people that you whispered that you loved me. The only things that were true were that you were depressed and we held hands, but the next day you would act like you didn't remember. I tell people that I sat staring at you from across the cafeteria, wearing a jacket of my own, as you sat down with the other varsity basketball players and hid your glances at me behind your shaggy blonde hair. Even on the grayest days, your hair was as bright and yellow as ever. When my father asks me about you, I tell him that you are just a friend I have had since 8th grade, but because you are a boy, you're never allowed over. He leaves me alone. I want him to ask me questions like, why were you home late? Or why do you smell like pot again? Or why is your lipstick smeared? But he doesn't ask me these questions. The less he knows, the better. Instead, I tell him these things during one of our many fights under the single 40-watt light bulb in our kitchen. I tell him that I'm in love with you and that you and I will marry one day, when race and status doesn't matter. My father tells me that love doesn't feed people. It doesn't put food on the table. He tells me that you are a failure who only wanted sex. I tell people about the week before graduation and how I invited you over to my house while my dad was out of town. I tell them about the time I laid a blanket down on the living room floor and stole a bottle of bourbon from my dad's stash, and we drank and watched movies until we were dizzy and red. Only you and I will know about how you grabbed at me desperately, peeling off the pink cardigan you snuck into my backpack on my birthday, how you looked at me and how I could see the depths of sorrow and embarrassment in your eyes, how you looked like you wanted to tell me everything and nothing at the same time. I tell my closest friends that we were quiet while we undressed each other and wrapped our arms around one another like we were making love for the first time. When my husband asks me about you, I tell him that you're my first and that it didn't really matter. I tell him that we had messy high school sex, the type that is uncomfortable and nerve-wracking. He asks me if I loved you, and I say no. When the people at your funeral ask about you, I tell them that your depression wasn't obvious and that you were a generally happy-go-lucky guy. I tell your mother that you changed my life in more ways than I could have ever imagined. I will hug your father, who never cries, and thank him for raising such an amazing son who loved life and loved his friends with such fervor. I will give your little sister a box of memorabilia you mailed to me during your first year at West Point. When she asks about the box, I'll explain to her the meaning behind every piece. The old maple leaf from when you went to Quebec and saw the leaves change color during the fall, the gloves you were given on your first day at the academy, the lock of hair from your first military haircut, and the long blue and white standby ticket from California to New York that had gone unused. When people we went to school with asked me about you, I tell them that we secretly loved one another, a deep love that was too good and pure for this world. I tell them about the plans we made to leave our spouses and run away together to Spain and eat paella every day and drink sangria at night. When they ask me about how you died, I tell them that you died with my picture in one hand and a shotgun in another, and And as you looked at my teenage face smiling up at you, you said, I love you, I love you, I love you, until everything went black.